All right. Hello, hello. We are back. House in Fata Morgana. We just finished the main story 2 nights ago, 3 nights ago, a while ago. We did a very long stream for that, but now we are on a Requiem for Innocence. I'm so excited to start this. I have no idea what we are walking into, but I will give you the same warning that I got when I started looking it up. There are a shit ton of trigger warnings in this one. So, obviously keep yourself safe as we continue to play through it. So let's recap what we did last time, and then we'll just jump right in because I have nothing else to talk about. As a reminder, I'm Kels. You'll hear me talk a lot. Okay, so recap. When we opened the door, Morgana's future self was telling her a story about us as the angel, and we played that role for her in her dying moments. Then we made the three men say their parting words to her and her soul and carried her out. They promised to burn our warning into their souls next time and then walked out into their inevitable lynching. But when we stepped outside, we saw everyone dead already because this isn't really the past, it's a memory projection. In the void, we met the sword-bearing Abby, who said we helped her remember who she is, and now she wants us to extinguish her soul because she blames herself for what happened in the doors. She stated she was the saintess identity created by Morgana to bear her pain and persisted after death, then we brought her to life. Her existence is inextricably tied to Morgana's wish, and she modeled herself after us. Despite our wishes, we were given no choice but to stab her so she and Morgana can be whole. You know what? That was a little bit anticlimactic because we were so just determined that she was doing something bad, and she was absolutely not. So, sorry, our bad. Morgana was blindsided by finding out that there were two lords and one of them loved her, and lashed out at how misinformed her actions were, but we hugged her. She told us that Abby was disappointingly passive compared to what she remembered of us, and we convinced her to release the souls even if she can't let go of her hate. We accompanied her to release them and get closure on the doors. The last soul we met was Georges in the painting, who was Morgana's trash can for centuries and had no idea why he's here other than wanting to be near us. Morgana wanted us to scribble on him, and he let us, so we drew our family with Morgana and ugly speckles. When the door opened, Didier's mob was there to burn the witch, so Georges took the hit for us. Then he stabbed us and begged us to punish him for killing us, but we forgave him instead. We did a lot of forgiving the base game. Like, good on us. But man, we were very forgiving. As we stepped into the light, Morgana asked if we'd be her friend in the next life, and if we want a male body or to be with Giselle in our next life. The house faded, and we eventually reunited with Giselle, and everyone reincarnated in modern-day France. Giselle remembers everything and waited for us to come back, and we hopefully live happily ever after. So now that we've got our happily ever after, I think Requiem for Innocence, if I saw the right things, is the prequel. So I mean, at least there's a happily ever after. So let's get into it, I think. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's where I need to be. Okay, so I guess we'll just start with the top one. Trying to find information on this game is not particularly easy, so let's go. All right, death hangs in the air, spreading as far as the eye can see. Trees and flowers, animal and insects, the rich, the poor, the pious. Death's touch spares nothing, something, something. This is the tale that was lost to time when the witch was not yet a witch, when the boy still had hope in his eyes, when their lives turned from normal. The time has come to revisit that tale. To see exactly how their hopes and dreams came crumbling down. Oh. Okay, so it sounds like we're going to focus on Maria. Well, I guess, yeah, Maria. And Jacopo and Morgana. So, yeah, that's what this sounds like. Let's do this. I'm so excited for this, actually. All right, we have Jacopo. And we do have Maria. Yay, we are going to get Maria. My girl. She did absolutely nothing wrong despite the fact that we accused her of things. Okay, then we have Saren. She's cute. And, of course, Morgana. That's true. We never did get much closure on what happened with the previous lord and the fake mom, so. Okay, we have Gratian. The Lord Barnier. Oh, he looks something. Odilon. Email. Okay, I assume that some of these people are related somehow. So I wonder who it's going to focus on, whether we're going to get more Morgana or Jacopo. One day I'll show you the world. Do you ever get tired of saying that? You've got to think big, dream. The world's changing all around us. Life just fighting to make it day by day. Okay, they don't do much. They don't have enough time to read things. So please read it on your own. Okay, for them, there is no happily ever after. Lovely. Well, I guess we do know that there's no happily ever after. Hear me speedily, O Lord, my spirit faileth. Hide not thy face from me, led. You know what? It doesn't help when I can't read either. Deliver me, O Lord, from mine enemies. I flee unto thee to hide me. Teach me to do thy will, for thou art my God. Thy spirit is good. Lead me into the land of uprightness. Quicken me, O Lord, for thy name's sake. For thy righteousness' sakes bring my soul out of trouble, and of thy mercy cut off mine enemies and destroy all that afflict my soul. For I am thy servant. Psalms 143, 7, 12. I don't know exactly if that's how you say that, but if it's not, sorry. That's true. Jacopo's story did sound like he was a big hero at first. And we've got Barnier, so I don't know where we're going to end here, but all right. Cheers. A saint's blood and good fortune to all. Oh, fuck you. Poor girl. I forgot she's like 9 here. What the fuck is wrong with you, man? Voices. So many voices. Laughing, laughing, laughing. Was this the 10th such party? The 20th? I no longer had any idea. The Lord's guests merrily drank of my blood. My father had not blessed me with his miracle, so wealthy nobles could fill their goblets with it. My blood was for the poor, for the infirm and the destitute. Why am I here? Because your mom sucked, quite honestly. That's why you're here. Why am I not doing my father's work? With each passing moment, my body grew colder and colder, while a mad, fiery fervor spread amongst the partygoers. Father, it hurts. My soul hurt far more than my body. It felt like it was cracked in a dozen places, about to shatter. Again and again, I've told myself it was just a trial, that God was simply testing me, but I didn't think that I could bear it much longer. A horrible black miasma spilled from the wounds of my flesh, filling the room. It was probably an illusion, something only I could see. The miasma soon began consuming my spirit. All my life I spent telling myself to be pure, just, righteous, and all of that was corroding away, ripping me asunder. Father, O Lord, of thy mercy, cut off mine enemies, and destroy all them that afflict my soul. Is this where the curse actually started off? Like, although I guess no one got cursed technically from this time period. So, or I mean, maybe they did and they just didn't come to the house? I don't know. For I am thy servant. I am thy servant. Please, O Father, deliver unto these sinners thy holy judgment. Cast them down into the depths of hell for the sins they would commit against thy faithful servant. Disguised as a prayer, I cursed them. For the first time in my life, I wished someone ill. I did what a saint, what the daughter of God must never do. And in that moment, I committed a sin greater than anyone else in that room. Oh, I'm kind of getting it. That's why her face stuff started falling off and when she forgave and all of that. Then she got it back. Okay, okay. The brain cells are kind of vibing. The girl! Look at her face! I began to hear panicked voices rising up around the hall. However, I was completely oblivious to the cause of the unrest. In fact, I assumed that perhaps God had heard my wish and struck down some of the partygoers. The Lord marched over to where I sat in chains, grabbing me by the hair and yanking my head up. In his other hand, he held a sword. A disgusted grimace was carved onto his face, as though he was looking down at the filthiest thing in the world. You're a damned witch wearing a saint's skin. No, she's wearing a 9-year-old's skin, like, 'cause she's 9. And exactly, no, Morgana, them drinking your blood is still the bigger sin. Oh, hey! What is this? Tits out for revolution? Like, what is with that? Low cut. I love it. This is worse than I expected. The stench of rotting flesh hung in the air. Corpses were strewn about the room in various states of decay. Blood pooled on the floor, black and thick as mud. An eyeball hung loose from one body, half decomposed and about as much liquid as it was a solid. The music in the background makes me think that, like, we're in some, like, platformer dungeon. Yeah, he borrowed that shirt from Maria. It kind of looks like it could be one of hers, I'm not gonna lie. On many, white bone was visible through patches of flesh that had rotted away entirely. Some had been worked to death. Others died of any number of diseases. And they were the lucky ones. Several bodies bore stab wounds from head to toe. Others looked like someone had tried to rip them in two. Some had been burned until their entire bodies shriveled, and some were covered in blisters. There was no shortage of people who had obviously been tortured. Though the man on the other end of the torture, the Lord Barnier, thought of it more as a leisure activity. The Lord was spoken of in whispers as the second coming of the great tyrant of old, though it wasn't until I snuck into his manor and saw it for myself that I truly understood how accurate that was. He was a damn psychopath. I apologize that I couldn't make it in time to save you all, too. I'm hardly a religious man. But for you, I think I can spare a prayer. Rest in peace. Short, simple, to the point, I guess. I'm not myself today. Though, I suppose that shouldn't be a surprise, considering what today is. I wonder if that girl from the other day is among the dead. No, I need to stay focused. If this goes south, I'll be the one joining this pile of bodies. God, I'm starting to get a little nervous. Don't go weak in the knees now, Jacopo. How can you ever expect to go out into the world if you can't even keep yourself together for something as straightforward as this? I can do this, no problem. Let's start ourselves a revolt. Yeah, let's do it. It all began a little over 2 weeks earlier. The local lord's iron-fisted rule was destroying the commoners. And this went doubly for those living in poverty, who were barely scraping by before taxes. You could hardly take 3 steps out into the slums without hearing someone curse the Lord. I have no idea who first proposed the plan. Everything came together so smoothly, so quickly, it's almost a blur. What started as the everyday litany of complaints hurled back and forth between the usual crew of young indignant men in the pub soon escalated, ballooning into a full-fledged plot to strike back. He treats us like dog shit. We're the ones working his goddamned land. Let's give the bastard what's coming. Over the next few days, word of the plot spread through the slums, and the number of volunteers grew at an impressive pace. And the more people we had on board, the more realistic it all started to become. While the original plan amounted to charging in headlong with whatever weapons we could scrounge together, it quickly evolved into a more sensible scheme to infiltrate the Lord's manor and free his slaves. It was no secret that the Lord was purchasing far more slaves than he should have any reasonable use for. What we didn't know was what he did with the slaves. That the banquets he so loved to throw were actually 6 sadistic torture parties. The best we could do was infer their living conditions were less than ideal from the fact that the Lord kept acquiring more. And while the plan to free the Lord's slaves was undeniably rooted in a righteous desire, I would be lying if I said everyone's intentions were so pure. We wanted to right we wanted to right an injustice, absolutely, but the prevailing desire was for vengeance, to give the Lord a little comeuppance. Part of it was also calculated, that it would be advantageous for it to look like a slave revolt rather than a civilian uprising. If we struck from the outside, we were liable to bring the Lord's wrath down upon more than just the handful of us involved. But if the blow came from the inside, he couldn't blame us. Secondly, the Lord's mansion sat atop a hill, which meant that his soldiers had the advantage of terrain. It would be nigh impossible for a band of lowly, ill-equipped peasants to break through his defenses, and we certainly didn't have the money to hire mercenaries. No amount of righteous anger was getting us anywhere near that manor. On the other hand, quietly getting one person inside to stir the pot was far more feasible. So, ultimately, freeing the slaves was a means to an end. It was our best chance to deal the Lord a real blow. Of course, that didn't mean we wouldn't save as many people as we could, nor did it mean it would be easy to pull off, or that any of us would make it out alive. Yet Jacopo was a revolutionary reincarnated as a class traitor. I'm really interested to. He didn't want to know anything about his next life, but I'm so curious as to what his opinion would have been about future Jacopo. The plan went as follows. We would find a slave trader willing to sell one of us to the Lord. Once they had infiltrated, they would spread word of the scheme to the other slaves, trying to get as many of them on board as possible. Finding a slave trader willing to cooperate was surprisingly easy. They're businessmen, and slaves their product. Well, the majority didn't give a damn what happened to the slaves after they'd received payment. There were more than a few who were displeased, knowing their precious wares were being squandered. Slaves are supposed to be long-term workers. They're not meant to be expendable. They require food and rest and some semblance of reasonable living conditions. This is a little bit weird to read, I'm not gonna lie. It was far from a glamorous life, obviously, but most sensible slave owners at least had a vested interest in keeping their workers alive. However, that was far from the case with Lord Barnier. Slaves were, of course, the property of whoever purchased them, and a mere slave trader had no place complaining about how they were being treated. That didn't mean the traders had to like it, though, and there was a small collective of them who staunchly refused to do business with the Lord, quietly mocking any who did. Nobody openly spoke ill of the Lord, let alone opposed him directly. Not only because this land was under his control, but because he was a madman, and everyone knew it. So, they would help us get in, and nothing more. But that was fine. That was all we needed for them to put our plan into action. And the vanguard of our operation, the one who would infiltrate the Lord's manor, was me. I volunteered for the position, partially in the heat of the moment, but also because I was confident I could pull it off. Above all, though, I didn't want to believe that I couldn't manage such a straightforward task. I had to step up and take initiative, or I would never escape this life as a poor, lowly slum dweller. Crawling through the dirt, everyone, nobles and peasants alike, looking down on me, thinking I'm worthless. That would be me for my whole pathetic life. Like hell I was going to let that happen. I wanted to claw my way up, as high as I could manage. I didn't want to surrender, to accept that I was powerless. I wanted to make something of my one and only life. We chose the beginning of the Lord's next banquet for my infiltration, and that was when I saw the horror for myself. The abuse and the torture he put the slaves through. It was a goddamned blood banquet. Any mistake, no matter how small, would invite harsh discipline. If Barnier was in a particularly foul mood that day, he would physically beat the wrongdoer. He had a particular fondness for activities that drew blood, though, and he would regularly gather together nobles with similar predilections at his manor. Once a banquet had begun, it generally continued for around 2 weeks. Oh my god! The hell? The first thing I did after infiltrating was spread word of the plan to the other slaves. To be honest, I assumed it would be easy getting them to cooperate. They should have reviled Barnier more than anyone, after all. But I couldn't have been more wrong. Every ounce of willpower had been drained from them. They were malnourished, unrested, and violently oppressed. I could have hardly convinced them to swat a mosquito. He had them completely under his thumb.
Everyone was utterly terrified to fight back against Barnier. They would just as soon take their own lives.
Yet you do not need a fortnight to celebrate. Like,
2 weeks is so long.
I'm hoping that Morgana didn't get bled like that entire 2 weeks. Holy shit. Poor girl.
Hardly a day in, and the plan seemed to have already hit a wall. A full week I spent trying, and failing, to convince a single soul to assist in the revolt. Just as I was beginning to fear it might not work after all.
We need to talk. Come with me.
He was a tall, muscular slave who spent most of his time doing physical labor. Despite the poor conditions, he seemed to be keeping himself in rather good shape. And unlike the other slaves, his eyes weren't filled with fear and resignation. But it wasn't hope I saw in them either. Rather, they looked like the eyes of a bloodthirsty wolf. And his unkempt, greasy blonde hair only served to amplify the primal impression he gave off.
He does look like a JoJo character. I will definitely say that. It's either that or like the base RPG character in a pixel game when you finally like get out the manual and see what they look like, and it's like, oh, that's what you were trying to make that 64 pixel square look like.
Between that and the faint, cocky smirk visible on his lips, he more resembled the head of a gang of ruffians than a slave. I wasn't sure it was entirely wise to accompany him anywhere. But against my better judgment, and with far too little information, I followed the man to the great hall. There were a dozen or so nobles and upperclassmen and women clustered about the hall. The air was filled with the scent of aromatic herbs, and it wasn't long before I realized they were meant to mask the smell of blood. A large table was lined with plates stacked with piles of glistening, dark red meat. Noblemen sneered at us with wet lips as we entered the room. The contrast between the nobles' practiced, graceful mannerisms and the grotesque feast of which they were partaking was so bizarre I simply stood there aghast. There was no room for anger to form. The lord stood on a platform, like a small stage at the far end of the room.
Are you the slave who offered to be the day's entertainment?
The buff man nodded, dropping down to one knee.
What does he mean by entertainment? Surely you've tired of merely inflicting pain on helpless slaves. Would you, by chance, be interested in something a little more exciting? Could you be any more disrespectful?
Lord Barnier, you would do best to rid yourself of such barbarians such as him.
There, give the poor man a break.
You can't expect an uneducated slave to be properly versed in the ways of polite society.
Yeah, they are freaks. Like, I'm judging hard right now. I'm not talking about it, but what the fuck? Like, how much money do you have to go, you know what would be fun? A step away from cannibalism. Or this might be cannibalism. I'm not entirely sure.
No, elaborate, slave.
Me and him. We duel. Right here, right now.
Huh?
Do you seriously think we haven't already pit slaves against each other numerous times by now? If that's all, tell me, were they as vigorous as the two of us? Young and chomping at the bit? Well, if y'all want to see just a couple of half-dead slaves limply flailing at each other, then help yourselves. But you're not gonna find many here what can give you a fight with some real oomph, you know? Hell, half the slaves here would probably keel over with just a little shove. So I figured you might be up for a little change of pace. A barbarian like me. Whoa, I never agreed to this! Suck it up, you're a slave. Since when have you had the right to agree to anything? You make a compelling argument. Gratian, was it? My lord knows my name. I'm honored. I only remembered because you came very highly recommended. The slave trader said you were descended from a line of warriors that made a name for themselves fighting in the ancient Colosseum. I had assumed he was exaggerating. But perhaps there was some truth to it after all. I just realized that his cup is literally overflowing with blood. I hate this man. Like, there is nothing about this that I don't hate. There we go. Don't you want to see our half-naked bodies glistening in battle? I know how many of you are Fujoshi. Like, Look, naked wrestling. We don't have to fight to the death, we just have to fight naked, right? Who can say? Couldn't tell you about my ancestors. But what I can tell you is that I just love a good duel. Fought in the Colosseum? Descended from gladiators? And I'm supposed to go one-on-one against him? Very well. Guards, bring these two swords. Sir. Shit. What is he hoping to accomplish? To win Barnier's favor? I guess I'll just have to hope I can catch him by surprise as soon as... Hey, kid, listen up. What? Eyes forward. And keep it down. Listen carefully. Don't get any wise ideas, got it? Just go along with it. Everything on the level. What are you scheming? You'll find out soon enough. Assuming you can handle a sword anyhow. Yeah, I feel like that should have been question number 1, like, can you hold a sword? 2 guards approached us, each carrying a long sword. It was heavier than I expected, and it felt awkward in my hands. Please tell me this isn't the first time we've actually held a sword. Both of our blades were badly chipped, clearly old and battle-worn. Of course, they wouldn't give new, quality weapons to a pair of slaves, but a sword was still a sword. Beaten though they may have been, I still had to be careful or I'd be dead before I ever got the slave revolt off the ground. That said, I had survived this long in the slums. I wasn't completely helpless, and I had experience with a dagger, though I wasn't sure how much help that would be now. The longer, two-handed weapon still felt awkward in my hands. As I squinted at the blade's hilts and adjusted my grip, trying to familiarize myself with the feel of it, Barnier took a seat, readying himself to spectate. That's when I caught sight of what lay hidden at the back of the stage. What? I stood there, staring agape, completely forgetting I was but moments from a duel with a man twice my size. At the back of the stage was what looked like an altar, draped in a thick white sheet, and stained red. Atop it sat a young girl, covered in gashes. Her head was drooped, so I couldn't see her face, but judging from her size, I didn't think she could be more than 10 years of age. Some wounds were older and had already scabbed over. Some were swollen, bright red protrusions on her pale skin. Some were oozing pus, and others were so fresh that they were still bleeding. It was difficult to find a part of her body that wasn't cut. Hey, what do you think you're doing to that girl? I don't care who you are. No one deserves that. Okay, so clearly we took the cue of just, follow along. There we go. I can only imagine the experience with a dagger equates to Maria forcing him to help her practice knife catching. Look, that's called bonding. So, it's what siblings do, right? Even as I shouted at the Lord, the girl remained motionless. She seemed unconscious. Not dead yet, but it wouldn't be long. Silence, cur. I don't recall giving you permission to speak. Or if you'd rather lose your head right now, continue on as you are. Damn despot. Now go on, get started. Give us a show befitting of this grand affair. Fighting my urge to snap back at him, I turned to face the slave named Gratian. The other guests lined the walls, whispering amongst themselves, speculating about the potential victor. The crowd was so overwhelmingly in Gratian's favor, to absolutely no surprise, they didn't even bother taking bets. Yeah, I mean, no offense, Jacopo, but I would also probably put a bet on him, not you. Oh shit, I'm scared. Try not to go down in one blow, kid. Hold on, what's the point of this? Slowly, Gratian lowered into a crouch, and the next second, he leapt at me like a tiger. There was an audible whoosh, and before I even had time to gasp, he was mere inches away. What choice do I have? I swung my sword up, catching Gratian's blade mid-descent and attempting a parry, but there was far more weight in his strike than I had expected. The impact caused my hands to sting painfully and my knees to buckle. I clenched my teeth, trying, at the very least, to hold my ground. Ugh! Gratian barely gave me time to recover, let alone strike back, before launching into a second attack.
He handled the long sword so effortlessly, swinging it through the air in such impressive, perfect arcs that I could hardly believe we were both using the same weapon. I twisted out of the way, but not quite in time. The tip of his blade skimmed the skin of my neck. Oh, shit. It would be so embarrassing if he tripped and fell on our sword. He tripped and fell on our sword 10 times. And then, not even giving me a chance to catch my balance, he thrust his blade at me. While I managed to deflect the attack just in time, I wasn't able to follow through. Meanwhile, a wide, mocking smirk spread across Batian's face. He seemed to be having the time of his life. Come on, kid. You're gonna have to do better than that if you want to keep your head. Ugh. I rattled off several insults in my head, but unlike him, I couldn't spare the energy to put them into words. I'm probably the courage either, let's be clear. This man is coming at us with a sword, and he is clearly better at it. Let's not egg him on. Pick it up, boy. God damn! That all you got, kid? I thought you'd fare a little better. Shut your damn mouth. I was stuck on the defensive, and with every strike, he pushed me farther and farther back. I was almost up against the wall. I thought he said this was part of some plan. Or was he just trying to get me to let my guard down? He's conspiring with the Lord. He must be. Why challenge me to a duel, though? Did someone spill word of the plan to him?
There we go. We should do that trick where we slice across the ground and swing dirt into his eyes. I don't know how much dirt is on this stage, but I mean, it sounds like maybe there's blood on the ground. So even if we die, he'll probably get a disease of some sort and die, you know, like painfully months later. Like, yeah, we're still dead, but we kind of won. Come on. Give me your best shot, boy. Yes, very funny. You know damn well I'm barely managing as it is. You gotta at least try. Don't want to put our audience to sleep now, do we? Ugh. Even the bones in my forearms are starting to sting. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. Here, let me show you how it's done. God, I can't get a damn inch on him. Much more of this and I'll be up against the wall. I'm dead if I don't go on the offensive. Now's my last chance. Well, I've still got breathing room. Hey, big guy, you might think you have the advantage, but not for long. That's rich, coming from a guy who can't even get one swing in at me. It was all a trick to get your guard down. I've been saving this one just for you, meathead. Good luck dodging it. With that hulking body of yours. Now that's more like it. Let me have it, kid. I hopped backward a couple of paces until my heel was pressed up against the wall. There was no backing down. Not anymore. Breathing heavily, I lifted my blade, pointing it at Gratien. He pointed at his in turn, a cocky grin plastered on his face. And then, I kicked off the ground hard, sending me flying towards him. My sword held down near my waist, his above his head. And then, whoosh. Huh? He whiffed, his blade ripping right through the air just over my head. The mere force of the gale created by his swing was so intense. For a brief moment, I thought he might have knocked my head clean off my shoulders. But I was still breathing, and despite the exhaustion, my mind was incredibly clear and focused. Yay for adrenaline! I hadn't swung up at him, but slid across the floor. Your back's wide open. I lurched to my feet, spinning around, and swung my sword at his neck with everything I had. What? But my would-be grand comeback was deflected from behind without a bat of an eye. And hardly a wimpy deflect for that matter. My hands felt like they were on fire. Little bit on the dirty side that was, but hey, not half bad, kid. Damn it. Just a little more oomph to that swing and you might have landed it. Too bad, too bad. I don't stand a chance against him head on, but he's not one to fall for the same trick twice. I need a new plan. Back against the wall with you. Son of a... What's the matter, kid? Is that all you got? After all that talk, I was expecting a little more from you. He's got me completely under his thumb. I'm dead if I don't do something, but I can barely lift my arms anymore. We skip arm day, like, all the time. It's getting harder to breathe. My vision's going blurry. I can't. I can't die yet. Not here, not now, and not to this damn brute. There we go, we just throw the sword. There has to be something. An opening, I'm not seeing anything. Some way to turn the tables. Huh? Am I imagining it? Or did I react to that quicker than usual? Is he doing what I think he's doing? Patterns were forming in my mind. I'd been through this routine so many times now, my body instinctively knew what came next. I'd parried his strike entirely by reflex. I wasn't so full of myself to think it was a sign I was gaining the upper hand. As much as I loathed to admit it, he had every imaginable advantage over me. I should have realized what he was doing sooner, but I'd been so focused on keeping my head attached and my sword in my hands that I didn't have the spare mental capacity to see beyond that. He was in complete control. The only reason I was able to keep up with him was because he was letting me. Because he was repeating the same sequence of attacks again and again. If I'm right, the next, he'll come from above. Haha! Right on the money. A clang, like the pealing of a bell, echoed through the hall as our blades collided. It was a much cleaner, more satisfying sound than they had made when I was struggling to keep up. I still don't know what he's scheming, but I'm not going to throw away this chance to win back some ground. Sparks flew with each clash of our swords, and Gratian's smirk grew wider. I could hear murmuring bubble up in the gallery as the tides churned. Cheering, cursing, confused gasps. Is he... My guess is he's playing... We are the distraction, and that something is going to happen that the lords are not watching. But I could be wrong here. Because we are on the stage. Like, what all could he have set up here? But before long, the sound seemed to grow distant. It was just me and Gratian in a bubble of silence. Not even the sound of metal striking metal. My heavy breathing, the stomping of our feet, the distractingly loud pounding of my heart, the blood pumping through my veins. It all wisped away into nothing. Every one of my senses were focused on exactly two things: the image of our swords cutting clear arcs through the air, and Gratian's intent. Oh, maybe he's training us. That's it. Next, overhead. He whispered so quietly that by all rights I could have never heard it, but his intentions came through loud and clear. As if being controlled by that voice, I swung my sword down. After about half a dozen such clashes, we locked blades and had a brief shoving match before putting a little distance between each other. And then we went at it again. To the audience, it would have looked like a fierce battle to the death, but I felt more like we were dancing than anything. Well, he was dancing. I was merely following his lead. But if that was his plan, whatever his plan was, I had no choice but to dance to his beat. The only thing improvisation would get me is a sword through the heart. Meanwhile, sticking to the plan, I had nothing to worry about. No reason to fear his sword might go off course. After several more fierce clashes, we got in close again. We were both breathing pretty heavily by that point. I was drenched in sweat, and it felt like I'd collapse right then and there if I loosened up for even a second. Gratian tossed a glance off to the side for the briefest of moments. His lips came together, curling up into a smile. Listen up. 3 paces back, then charge. Swing down as hard as you can. Put everything you got into it. As soon as I signaled my acknowledgement, Gratian parried my sword off to the side. 1, 2, 3 paces back, and then I gathered my strength into my legs. I crouched, like he had at the beginning of the duel, envisioning myself as a tiger ready to pounce. And then we leapt at each other in perfect sync. Yeah, these noble rubes have never heard of flinting before. What? The harsh sound of metal striking metal, more piercing than anything else up to that point. For a heartbeat, the world went white.
then the whoosh of something ripping through the air. It wasn't for another second or two that I realized what had happened. Breathing heavily, I looked down at the sword in my hands, only to find half of it missing. Oh shit! Gratian's blade appeared to have snapped as well. The gallery began buzzing. Are you all right? How dreadfully dangerous. A perverse grin spread across Gratian's lips. I finally understood what he had been scheming. He wanted the swords to break, and he wanted it to look like an accident, hoping that when the shattered blades went flying, a noble or two would be caught in the crossfire. That explained the whole song and dance, why he had us hitting each other's blades in the same spots again and again. But how the hell would you ever expect that to work? That said, if the fight had gone on much longer, I don't think I would have lasted. His plan seems to have gone about as well as you could reasonably expect. One piece landed near Barnier, and the other embedded in a table. That's fine by me. I'd rather avoid causing any more of a scene before the actual revolt. Not that I'd be opposed to seeing any of these madmen skewered. Gratian wiped the sweat from his brow with the back of his hand and surveyed the room. As obviously outclassed as he was by all the nobles, he still seemed much larger than anyone else in the room. He took a few moments to catch his breath, then sauntered over to the center of the great hall, taking another good look around the room before saying, "Apologies for the disturbance, my lord. While ordinarily a duel's supposed to end with someone dead, looks like that's out of the question today. So, mayhap we can reschedule. Put on another show in a day or two, if you'd like." Hmm. Barnier seemed less than pleased with the outcome, but considering how rattled his guests were, he couldn't press the matter either. "Very well. Now, I believe you two deserve a reward for such a fine show." "Ooh, what kind of reward?" "One I'm sure you'll be quite pleased with. The leftovers from today's feast. Gourmet cuisine, the likes of which you mere slaves could only dream of getting your dirty hands on." You mean those bleeding scraps of mystery meat?" "Worry not. There's pork in there." "Or does your religion prohibit you from eating pig?" Okay, it's not the presence of pork that scares me, it's the fact that there's pork in there, kind of implying that there's more than pork in there. What else is in there, my dude? Like, I'm so scared. I don't want that. Nah, I gave up on religion long ago. I'm fine with eating meat. Most meat, anyway. I'll have the other slaves bring it down this evening, then. Now, the show's over. Be gone with you." "Gone we be, my lord." "I'm still concerned about that girl, but there's nothing I can do for her right now. Hopefully she lasts long enough for the revolt, but with wounds like that." "Hey, kid, pick your beat ass up and let's get out of here." "I am not beat. Thank you very much." "Who are you trying to fool when you're wheezing up a lung? Getting huffy about it only makes you look more pathetic." "Piss off, you inhuman monster." Now, do have a wonderful day, ladies and gents. Yes, this your champion. Bring me more. Once we were out of the hall and in the corridor, I took several deep breaths, finally letting loose some of the tension that had built up within me. As we made our way through the corridors, the sound of the nobles laughing and chattering away amongst themselves faded into nothing. Yeah, I'm gonna guess none of these meals are kosher, vegan, any of the, might be paleo. I don't know all the stuff about the paleo diet, but I know meat's in it. We headed for the rather barren waiting room where slaves without assignments were kept. In essence, it was a human closet. I looked up at Gratian, who was standing beside me. I had about a dozen things I wanted to say to him, but I couldn't organize my thoughts into words. So I simply shrugged and pursed my lips. Yeah, that was a shame." "Huh? What was a shame?" "You were hoping to kill at least one noble when the swords broke, weren't you?" If only. I'm not that skilled, hell no. "You could have fooled me. If anything, I'd say we're lucky it went as well as it did."
It's a damn good thing they gave us their old crusty swords, or we'd never have managed to break them at all. If not to skewer one of the nobles, then why go to such lengths at all? Jacopo, both of you walked away from that alive. How have you not, like, picked up on this yet? Well, because otherwise we'd have had to fight to the death, of course. No, that's not what I'm... Of course, we both know who'd be standing here then. As much as I hate to admit it, he has me beat in almost every category. For God's sake, how'd he even get that good with a sword? Is it hereditary or something? What I'm trying to figure out is what your ultimate objective was in this whole facade. Why challenge me to the duel at all? You're planning a revolt, aren't you, kid? What does that have to do with anything? Just answer the question. Denying it will only delay the inevitable, so no point in that. And I'm fairly certain he's not on the Lord's side, at least. If he was just trying to win the Lord's favor, I can't imagine the duel would have ended the way it did. I can probably trust him. Yeah, he's stronger, taller, the better fighter, and so much sexier than I am. He does have us beat in literally every category. His dick's probably bigger too, like... Yes, I am. And I need the other slaves to help pull it off. But the little drones have been sucked all their fight, and you can't get anyone on board. Why even ask the question if you already know the answer? Hey now, no need for the lip, kid. I brought it up because I'm trying to tell you I'm in. You're in? Excuse me? What about anything you've done today would make me think you're in? Bear with me for a sec and put yourself in the other slaves' places. Some dick they never met before shows up out of the blue saying, I've organized it to have y'all set free and I need your help to do it. You think they're gonna buy into it? Fair enough. But it is true that I have people outside. Don't matter. You could be lying through your teeth and it wouldn't change a damn thing. All that matters is whether they think you're worth getting behind. I see your point. These slaves have been driven into the very depths of despair. They need someone charismatic enough to pull them out of that pit before they can be sparked to take any sort of action. Before infiltrating, I imagined it would be much simpler. It would seem that that was rather naive of me. Yeah, it was. That was a whole lot of words to say the same thing I just said. Forget your fancy metaphors. It all boils down to this. Do they think you have a chance at pulling it off, yes or no? These people, they don't got the energy to get all philosophical. They go with their gut. And the quickest way to their gut? Show them you're strong. Now I'm starting to understand what that duel was for. The other slaves already know of your prowess, so if I were to fight on the same level as you, then they'd be willing to hear you out. Exactly. Whoa there, kid. Why the sigh? You trying to blow this place down? You could have easily accomplished that without putting on a damn show in front of the Lord and putting my life in danger. It wasn't just for the other slaves, kid. What do you mean? I wanted to make sure you weren't some yellow-bellied pissant. That you're actually capable of doing what you promise. And now that I know you've got a semi-functional spine, I'm willing to help out with the revolt. Semi-functional, huh? Well, I'm glad I didn't disappoint you then. Given my performance back there, I couldn't blame you if you deemed me beyond hope. Give yourself a little more credit, kid. While I'm pretty sure that the stories about my ancestors being gladiators are exaggerated, I did participate in a few death games myself back before I ended up here. You should consider it a badge of honor that you fought a brute like me and lived to tell the tale. I was under the impression that the church put an end to gladiatorial games. Right. It went underground. Yeah, because that's what happens anytime you put a ban to anything. So, the rules may change, but not people. Always a market for blood sports. And yada yada, I got told to the Lord, and here I am. That probably explains what he meant when he said he had given up on religion. So, what's your story, kid? My money's on some rich aristocrat what got in his head he wanted to play hero and stop the big bad Lord from being mean to his slaves. You know, chat, I was kind of on your wavelength, about, the narrative is telling us, that that Gratian is trustworthy. So, like, he's going to betray us. But thinking about, like, how Jacopo's story goes, I'm wondering if Gratian is going to end up being our antagonist when Jacopo becomes the new lord. Because remember, like, he is technically going to betray us then. But the peasants rose up against Jacopo too, so they were just unsuccessful. Interesting. Yellow-bellied is a bit of an anachronism here, since it dates back to the late 18th century. What the hell gave you that idea? You strike me as more of a pretty rich boy than a ruffian is all. A prissy rich boy? I come from the slums. So no, I'm not just some upper-class punk playing hero. That effect? Well, color me surprised. You sure don't talk or act like any of the slum boys I know. That's probably because... Nothing. And now I'm even more curious, damn it. Honestly, it's not that interesting, I promise. Forget I said anything. It's because I want to be able to blend in when I eventually leave the slums. But he doesn't need to know that. I only just met him. Whatever you say, then. In that case, how about we do some proper introductions, huh? Name's Gratian, which you already should know. Nice meeting you, kid. Jacopo. I'm very glad to have your support, Gratian. Don't mention it. I've been wanting to make the scumbags eat dirt myself, and this is the perfect chance. Oh, right, one more thing I wanted to ask. What? How old are you? Excuse me? Is that relevant to anything? Jeez, kid, someone really needs to teach you how to shut up and answer a simple question. I'm 19. Oh, thank God, I'm 20. Now I don't have to feel like an ass for calling you a kid. I'm only a year younger! That hardly makes me a kid! A year's a long time, kid. Now that I've got that off my shoulders, I can put my all into helping with your revolt. I'm glad that that was going to hang him up. Quite honestly, I am very pro Gratian at the moment. I love him. I like him probably better than Jacopo. So, granted, Jacopo comes with a lot of baggage, because we know what happens in the future, but I'm starting to wonder if I even want this guy's help. Once I had Gratian on board, it was remarkable how quick the rest of the slaves were to join in. They knew him, and they respected him, and that respect went a long way towards improving my own standing. As far as they were concerned, I had fought Gratian and managed to hold my own. And the big man was right. It wasn't a clever plan or a moving speech that these people needed to put the light back in their eyes. It was a show of strength. Over the next few days, as Barnier and his guests indulged themselves, word of the plan quietly spread beneath the surface. I started to see signs of life for the first time since I had arrived. The majority of the slaves were emaciated and weak. There was a good possibility that the guards would kill many of them. But still, I urged on any who hesitated by saying, "If you choose to stay, you're guaranteed to be killed eventually." It was true, to be sure, but in essence I was threatening them. Help or be left behind to die. And that was enough to convince them to grab onto the thread of hope I was offering, however frail it may be. We chose the 13th day of the banquet to commence the revolt. Waiting until almost the end of the party's usual 2-week duration gave us a slight tactical advantage. Yeah, it's relevant to how problematic your crush on Morgana will be. 10 years is, well, really problematic when she's that young, but naturally, Barnier's guests did not attend without their own protection. But after being made to watch over almost 2 weeks of debauchery, the guards would start getting exhausted. They would stop caring. And that was exactly what we needed. Hey there, Jacopo. Everything's good to go on my end. We can give Lord Asshole what's coming whenever you're ready. Thank you. I appreciate all your help. Whoa there, kid. Save the thanks for after we get out of here with our heads still attached. Fair enough. Then how about this? If we both survive, I'll take you to the best pub in the slums. As long as there are pretty ladies, count me in. There's one I can introduce you to if you don't mind your girl's headstrong and with a little bit of bite. Yay, Maria! Tough and pretty? Now that I can get behind. I spent so long surrounded by all these half-dead drones that I could sure stand for some good-natured abuse right about now. Well, that's one way to put that. Good-natured might be a bit of a stretch. Rub her the wrong way and you'll find yourself short a pair of jewels. Think I'll pass on that one then. I don't care how much of a looker she is. I ain't ready for her to be my last. How about this then? I tell you what I'm looking for, and you have someone picked out for me by the time this is all over. Exactly. Maria deserves a strong man who can survive her. So, you know what? If you are worried about your balls being cut off, then you don't deserve her. Sorry. Flexible in the looks, but slender and short are a must. Meaty girls ain't really my type. Blonde hair and blue eyes are a plus, but it ain't a deal breaker. And I like him to be a bit... Slow down there. You've got your head way too far in the clouds if you think you're going to find your ideal wife at a brothel in the slums. I know. How do you expect me to give this my all without something to look forward to on the other side? I suppose it is a decent motivator. See? You get me. Now, on to business. You ready to do this? I've been ready, kid. Just waiting for the word. That's about as good an answer as I could have hoped for. Before we begin, I want to go over the plan one last time. After you've secured weapons from the armory, you take command of the other slaves and go open the gates. While you're doing that, I'll signal to my people outside, then cause a diversion. As long as we don't make too much noise, the Lord and the other nobles shouldn't realize anything's amiss until we're on top of them. As soon as the gates are open, you head for the Great Hall, where we'll rendezvous. We crash the party, and while the Lord and his friends are distracted, my people will lead the slaves to safety. And then we swipe up all the shiny things we can carry and get our asses the high hell out of there. Right. Can't forget the valuables. A man after my own heart. Like, come on. Huzzah! I'm getting all sorts of fired up. Don't you trip and fall on some guard's sword before we even get to start our fun, you hear me? Same to you. Well then, let's get going. May fate be on our side. Damn right. And we know the future, so we know it is. Hey, what do you think you're doing? You're not supposed to be here. Get back to... stay back. Don't make me kill you. Wait, stop. My dude, you probably have a weapon. If you'd used it, it probably would have benefited you. You're up. Come on and draw your bloody cards already. Don't rush me, I'm thinking. On with it. It's almost lunch. If I hold this, throw away these, then I could... Christ. You hear that? Sounds like something's happening downstairs. Quit trying to distract me. I ain't letting you run off with the pot like last time. No, I'm serious. Something's going on down there. It's probably just a slave getting beat. How are you not used to that by now? I don't know. Something feels off to me. I'm gonna go check it out. And don't even think about messing with the cards while I'm gone. I won't. Hurry back. Ain't no bonus for giving a rat's arse, so it beats me what he's so eager about. God, I wish I could have gotten hired at a place that paid a little better. Am I seeing things? I swear I just saw something move. You on the wall! Get down from there! What do you think you're doing? You're not supposed to be up. Put the knife away before I... You're up here playing cards, and you have the nerve to call yourself a guard? I expected resistance to be light, but not this bad. I should take care of this and get out of here before the other one returns. It's amazing how much better a knife feels in my hands than a sword. It's so much easier to handle. Though it's not much help if they manage to draw on me first. Maybe I'll ask Gratian to show me how to use a sword if we both make it through the day. I hate the idea of giving him any more reason to claim superiority over me, but I can't think of anyone better than him. Keeping an eye on my surroundings, I climbed up onto the watchtower. I could hear shouting in the distance. It seemed Gratian was doing his job.
I pulled a brightly colored cloth from my pocket and affixed it to the highest point in the tower. As it began flapping in the wind, I turned my attention towards a hill in the distance. A group of tiny dots emerged from behind a rock formation, heading this way. I let out a sigh of relief. Next up, time to make some noise.
Yeah, luck's on our side on the Revolution side, not on Morgana's side. Girl's not gonna get luck for like 2,000 years, or I don't know how long it took for, her to get her revenge, but it was a lot of years. But backup! We need backup! The slaves are revolting! Revolting? Are you serious? What do you think you're carrying that damn sword for? You shouldn't need backup, just put them down. Yes, but there's too many of them, and they're not messing around either. They're stampeding right through us. They don't care how many of them die. And one of them is practically a giant. Now quit pissing yourself over a bunch of damn slaves. Who cares how big one of them is? They're not armed. Just be behind you. Huh? Sorry to disappoint you, but we are armed. Maybe you should consider posting another couple guards in front of your armory. Ah, there is. Come on, little man. Let's see what you got. Ah, you're no fun. Anywho, get these gates open, boys. Yeah! Ooh, I take it those are Jacopo's people. Kid actually did his job instead of booking it the hell out of here. Good on him. Of course, that's exactly what I was gonna do if I didn't see his people when we opened the gates. Guess he actually is good for his word. Which means I'm sticking through to the very end. Hey, take out as many of the bastards as you can on your way in. And be thorough. We want a clean escape, and we don't want to give him a chance to surround us. Keep at it. Don't let him get organized. If we fuck this up the ass pipe, it's a gallows for all of us. If you need a weapon, grab a rock, a vase, a fucking decapitated head, anything you can find. Get creative. It's art time. Gratia, how are things progressing? Smooth as a baby's behind. Your reinforcements are here, making right good work of the guards and getting as many slaves out as they can. I'm glad to hear it. Then let's head down to the Great Hall. Aye, let's. I'd like nothing more than to rip the Lord's head right off his shoulders. The point is not to kill the Lord. It's to deal just enough of a blow that he stops throwing so many damn banquets. For now, anyways, Jacopo just killed the Lord. Like, maybe it's not the right thing to do, quote unquote, the moral thing to do. But quite honestly, that man has so much blood, so many skeletons in the closet, like, just kill him. Sorry. He doesn't need another chance. And what if I trip and my sword just happens to run him through? I'd rather you didn't, but if at all possible, whatever happens, happens. Alright, let's do this. Exactly, that man is a mad dog that needs to be put down. Like, I'd do it myself at that point. What is the, like, is the moral imperative to let him live so that, like, you can sit there and go, oh, I was morally superior? Is this the stupid Batman thing of, like, oh, you're just as bad if you do it? Because that man, all of those nobles in there deserve death. Sorry. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Yeah! Is it just me, or is it unnaturally noisy in there? Did some of the others beat us to it, maybe? For as I know, we're the first ones here. I guess we'll find out. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Chaos reigned over the manor. But the chaos in the hall where the Lord held his banquet was of a slightly different flavor. A buzz filled the room. Noblemen and women murmured, shuffling backwards, putting distance between each other, tossing goblets to the ground. As Gratian had suspected, we were the first ones there. So why was everyone so tense? Whatever the cause of the disturbance, it seemed it was at least partially to thank for things proceeding so smoothly. The question is, what is happening here? Out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of the Lord. He stomped over towards the far end of the hall.
Sitting atop the makeshift altar was the same young girl I had seen a week prior. For a brief moment, relief came over me at the knowledge she was still alive. But that relief quickly morphed into dread. You! He unlocked the shackles binding the girl. Too weak to hold herself up, she fell forward into a slump, her long burgundy hair fanning out around her limp body. And then, "You're a damned witch wearing a saint's skin!" The Lord raised his sword high above his head. "Gratian, I'll be borrowing that!" "What? Hey, you little son of a..." "What?" I hurled Gratian's long sword for the Lord, knocking his blade from his hands. "We couldn't have done that with our knife. We had to do the long sword." The two swords rattled to the ground. I tossed my gaze to the girl for a split second. She was very clearly out of it, but she seemed to be breathing. Finally realizing a pair of slaves had just burst in on them, the nobles' panic swelled, and one of them started shouting for the guards. Well, fuck me sideways. There goes any chance we had a surprise attack, damn it all. We had the perfect distraction, too. And to hell with it. Get in here, boys. Yeah! That would sound a lot more impressive if they had given me like a backing track of other people. So, wait a sec. Need my sword first. The next second, the room was enveloped in a cacophony of shouting and screaming and clanging. Most of the nobles carried swords, but very few actually seemed to have any idea how to use them, the majority scrambling for the back exit. You insolent worm. Who do you think I am? To threaten your lord is to slight God. No, I don't think so. Ever the cocky bastard, I see. Tell me, do you have any idea what's happening right now? Silence, cur. You will regret ever defying me. Nothing more original, you third-rate fairy tale villain. I was the one who had said the Lord's death was not part of the plan. Yet there I was, going straight for him. Gratian was absolutely right. The Lord had been distracted with the girl when we arrived, but I had thrown that advantage away. I'd seen God knows how many slaves killed in hardly 2 weeks' time. Adding another body to the pile shouldn't have fazed me one bit. Logically, there was no reason for me to care. But I couldn't just leave her. And of course, now that I'd picked a fight with the Lord, I had no choice but to follow through to the very end. I dashed for the Lord, scooping up one of the dropped swords and swinging it down on him. But my blade cut through nothing but air. I'd assumed he would be a pushover, another noble obsessed with money and power and helpless to defend himself, so there was no hiding the look of shock on my face. Damn, he could move! Barnier slid out of range, swiping the remaining sword off the ground and whipping it through the air with practiced grace. Perhaps you should save the snide yapping for when you have the skill to back it up, insignificant cur. We'll see if you still feel the same way when I'm through with you. Man, we talk a really big game for how kind of mildly incompetent we are. There we go. The moral imperative here is to save the people he's enslaved and oppressed, and it's much harder for him to do that when he's not breathing anymore. Furthermore, you know what? He can't ever do it again if we kill him. And that's my thing. Like, can he be rehabilitated after all this? Fuck no. Sorry. So, fuck him. I closed the gap. We clashed. He swung. I parried. Steel and steel ripped through the hot air, carving ephemeral silver arcs in empty space. Our blades locked. What are you hoping to accomplish with this revolt? What's your end game? My end game? To get out of this hellhole and be free from slavery once and for all. I have my doubts about whether you ever were a slave at all. But no matter. Why attack me? What do you care about the girl? What do you have to gain from saving her? He's right. I have absolutely nothing to gain from rescuing the girl. All I've accomplished is making this whole process needlessly messy. That said, do I need to have something to gain? Are you saying I should just sit back and watch as you murder an innocent little girl? I was angry and I thought I'd do something about it. Nothing more, nothing less. Is that really so hard to understand? Nothing more than a childish hero complex. Just the answer I would expect from a foolish little boy with his head in the clouds. Excuse me? You're a puny worm, powerless to truly save anyone. You merely want to help the girl so you can pat yourself on the back and pretend you did a good deed. You simply want an excuse to be proud of your worthless self. Look at her. The girl's hardly even breathing. She'll be dead soon enough with or without my help. And who do you think is to blame for that? You don't have any right to judge the value of her life. My role in this is irrelevant. Was saving a dead girl part of the plan? It wasn't, was it? You diverged from the script to rescue a girl whose life is of no worth to you whatsoever, all so you can momentarily feel good about yourself. That misstep will be the downfall of you, worm. Enough! I'll put you back in the ground where you belong. Not a chance. God damn. For a flamboyantly dressed asshole, he sure can fight. There's not nearly as much force behind his swings as Gratian's, but he's quick. I can barely keep up, let alone react. I hope you enjoy eternity in hell. You'll have plenty of time to reflect on your little lapse in judgment. Damn it. I can't let this bastard kill me when we're so close to succeeding. I need to keep my cool. Yes, he's got me beat in agility, but Gratian's a much more skilled swordsman than him. I can handle this. Ugh. Sheer determination can only mask a lack of skill for so long, boy. Look at yourself. You're out of breath. That sword you're flailing around is getting heavier and heavier. Shut your mouth, damn it. I'm barely even broken a sweat. I will... Swear to God, I will have your head. Huh. Lord Barnier. Lord Barnier. Your escape has been secured, my lord. It seems our fun is over. Be grateful you're still breathing, Kerr. Hey! Wait, we're not done yet! Get back here, goddamn you! I made to go after him, but in an instant a wall of guards had formed between us. Traces of fear were visible in most of their eyes. Even exhausted as I was, I probably could have made it through. But before I could so much as consider attempting to give chase, I caught a glimpse of the girl, limp and covered in gashes, causing me to come back to my senses. What's gotten into me? There's no point in going after him. The slaves have been freed and his valuables plundered. The plan was a huge success. What I should be concerned with now is getting myself out of here. I need to stay focused. I took a moment to survey the hall, reevaluate the situation. Things had progressed somewhat since I had got it in my head to go after the Lord. Many of the slaves were gone, and the guards were beginning to mobilize. They were better equipped, trained, and more fit than us, and we were, for the most part, fueled entirely by determination and righteous anger, which would only go so far in direct combat. Gratian was probably the only one on our side with any sort of real training. One man was not enough to win this fight, especially now that our main advantage, surprise, was exhausted. Hey, Jacopo! If you're all finished with your business, I'd really like to get the hell out of here. I may be a badass, but I ain't a god. Right, yeah. Sorry for the holdup. Before regrouping with Gratian, I knelt before the girl. Hello? Can you stand? Hello? Can you hear me? I gently shook the girl by the shoulder, and the only response I got was a limp wag of her head. It was clear she was in no condition to walk. I guess I'll have to carry her, I thought, and made to pick her up. Huh? When I saw her face and gasped, dear God. It was horrific. Unsettling marks covered the young girl's face. Primal repulsion was my first reaction, and shortly thereafter came overwhelming pity. I obviously had no way of knowing what kind of life the girl had led, but something told me it was far worse than any of the countless children who grew up in the slums, struggling day after day. Hey, get moving! I ain't waiting around! I'm coming! I grabbed the girl's arms, wrapping them around my neck from behind, and climbed to my feet. I could feel her breath, faint though it was, on my ear. You hang in there. And then I broke into a dash, leaving the fading panic of the great hall behind.
Yay, we did it!
So bright. Light? Am I in heaven? God damn, she is surprisingly heavy for how little meat she has on her.
What, do you think she'd get lighter the harder you ran or something? Just ditch the stupid kid. She ain't long for this world anyway. Hell no. I'm not gonna let all that effort facing off against the Lord go to waste. You're one stubborn son of a bitch, you know that?
This is not heaven. Who are these people? Where am I going? I don't have the strength to think right now.
Hey, hey! Don't you go dying on me back there. Please, I'm begging you.
I'm so sleepy. Sleep. That sounds wonderful. How nice it would be to fall asleep on such a warm back. A Requiem for Innocence, Part 1, Tales of a Distant Past.
I think we're gonna end here for tonight. My voice is going out a little bit already, so we're gonna do a shorter stream tonight instead. Okay, so next stream is Tuesday at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. As a heads up, we do have a hurricane possibly coming for us, so Thursday may be canceled. Let's see. Thursday will be our last stream, and then we'll have to take a hiatus. I am traveling the week after that, so we'll be back either the Sunday or the Tuesday. I think that's like the 20th and the 22nd, I want to say. Um, yes. So we will be taking a quick, or it's not a super quick hiatus, but we will be taking hiatus. As a reminder, we do have the YouTube channel that will be posting while we were gone, or while I'm gone. And yeah, thank you for the well wishes. I'm just gonna get a cup of tea, and Honey will probably do some good things. So thanks for hanging out. I'm excited to see how this goes, and have a good night, all. See you Tuesday.
Bye.